Good evening. Thank you so much for coming to our final parent information night here at Sycamore High School. I'm Cathy Beck, the very proud director of Cheatham County Schools. Dr. McWhorter has asked me to share with you that the drama department is working on their upcoming theater production that will happen in October, a couple of weeks. Therefore, when you see the different things up here, that's what that is from. It is our intention to really better communicate with you, the community. Parents, make sure that you understand everything that we know, that we are completely transparent, and then we answer your questions about everything we're trying to do. So, this evening, we are going to go over several things. We're going to talk about the 5-year plan, and that is available online for you to look at. We're very, very proud of this document. It's not very long, and I invite you to go to our brand new website and look at it. So in depth, I'm going to talk about what we're going to accomplish this first year, but then you can look at our entire year's goals for the entire 5 years to go through 2023 on our website. Also going to talk about standards-based grading. That is in our 5-year plan, so I will mention it when I talk about the 5-year plan, but I will go into depth about it afterwards. Budget is a hot topic that I would love to give you more information about. Certainly school lunches, and finally moving forward. So that will be the order that we address all issues tonight. When I began on July 1st of 2017, the Board of Education charged me with creating a 5-year strategic plan. So I worked with all of my staff, and we started with 3 questions. What are you most proud of in Cheatham County? What would you like us to continue doing? And what are our next steps? We put these 3 questions out to the entire community, and we were thrilled. We ended up with about 730 responses. We felt like we had a really good mix of not only students and teachers and staff and parents and then community members. So we started going through and analyzing this data. And in the data, there were 5 very strong trends. And those 5 trends became our 5 strands. And we built our plan based on these 5 things. We also looked at our mission and vision statement. And I'm sorry, I just had a question in my mind about that. We looked at our mission, our current mission statement. We tweaked it just a little bit, but I want to share it with you because we're pretty proud of it. It says the Cheatham School District, together with the greater community, will create opportunities for all students to be successful lifelong learners and to develop into respectful and caring citizens who engage in a positive society. That very second part, together with the greater community, that came out as a strong core value for this entire community. It certainly takes a village to educate children, and I would tell you in my mind, education is like a 3-legged stool. And for that stool to stand or to balance, all 3 legs must hold up the equal weight. And in my mind, those 3 legs would be the schools, the parents, and the student. And it really takes all of us working together to maximize the opportunity and what the child is able to accomplish in his or her education. We also talk about, we want to create opportunities for students to be successful lifelong learners. We are in the business of being dream makers. And I can think of no finer business to be in. To be a dream maker, we have to understand every child's dream, and we have to be prepared to help them realize or reach that dream. We want them to be competitive in whatever area they want to go into, whether it's to go to a 4-year university, a 2-year college, to go into the military, to go to straight to work, whatever, a trade school, whatever their dream is, we want to make sure that we have a pathway to help them get there. We also really, another core value was to think about our children being respectful and caring. We want to look at the whole child, and we want to make sure that we teach them how to be respectful of all and inclusive of all children and caring of each other. And then finally, we looked at our motto. When I first started here, I talked about what does a 5-star quality mean? And I opened with and said, when you want to go to a really special restaurant for that special occasion, you might choose a 5-star quality restaurant. Or if you want to go away for a weekend or something really special, again, you might choose a 5-star quality hotel or experience. We want to offer a 5-star quality education, and our plan depicts what we consider to be, we'll give your children a 5-star quality. So our motto is 5-star quality, 5-star education, achieving excellence together. And again, the achieving excellence together depicts our very high expectations for the product that we're putting out in terms of the educational program that we are giving your children. But the word together goes back and talks about, we feel like it is a community experience, that we're going to all work together to make sure this happens. One of the strands that was very apparent, and I think it would be in every strategic plan for every school district across the nation, is academics. That is the meat and potatoes of what we do every single day. Now, we have many, many goals in our academic strand, and again, I invite you to look at them on the website. These are the ones that we're going to address this year. So, first of all, we're looking at our dual enrollment classes. The state of Tennessee now is saying that for every child to be a ready graduate, that they need to have 4 opportunities to either be enrolled in dual enrollment college classes, 4 classes, or a combination of college classes and earn trade-type certificates. So we have to really up our game to make sure that our children, when they leave us, that the state will deem them career and college ready. One of the things we started this year as part of our plan was we started what we call the Austin Peay Collaborative. And students had the opportunity from all 3 high schools to enroll in this process. We have students from all 3 high schools that meet every single day at the Workforce Center in Ashland City. And they spend half their day being taught by Austin Peay professors. They will, if they choose to go in the summer, they will be able to earn their associate's degree the same time they graduate from high school. This is a phenomenal opportunity. We have 14 children enrolled in it this year. It has gone really, really well, and we expect it to grow next year. Our biggest challenge for next year will be finding a space to be able to house this wonderful program. Again, we have dual credit classes, dual enrollment in all of our high schools as well, and we are continuing to expand those. Also this year, we are looking at working towards embedding STEM more in our schools. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. And the employers now tell us that they want students that have these skills. So you might think, well, what would engineering look like? And we even have STEM in the elementary level. Engineering at our levels is more about design. It's more about thinking at a very high level. Students start with a problem. In fact, I just saw a STEM activity posted on Twitter by Ashland City Elementary. And they started with the problem, and the problem was they felt like that there was trash out on their campus. And so the children were given the task, design a method to pick it up, not using your hands. And there were children that they had toilet paper rolls and all kinds of different pieces that they worked together to create these, but they actually then went and took their designs out across the playground and picked it up. That is a perfect example of a STEM activity at an elementary level. When you think about how someone thinks, there's the Bloom's taxonomy of levels, and we know that at the very bottom would be recognition and memorization. As you move up into more complex levels of thinking, creation and application design, that is a much more complex thinking than just memorization. We want our children to think at these levels, so we've got to have opportunities for them to use these skills. That's what STEM is about, and that is what we are starting to embed in our instruction and our lessons at all schools. Our elementary schools do not have art classes, and we feel like that is something that needs to be remedied. One wonderful thing about elementary children is you can walk in and at any class you can say, who is a great artist in here? And every hand is going to go up. We don't want to miss that opportunity. We want to make sure that our children have opportunities to learn how to be artistic, to learn to draw, to paint, to sculpt. When you work on art at the elementary level, it activates the right side of the brain, which is all about, again, design and creativity. So we want to make sure that our children have those opportunities as well. You will notice on the right is a flyer that you will see, and we are starting this year by having a volunteer program to help infuse art lessons at our elementary. We've just rolled this out at our different parent meetings, so if any of you are interested in volunteering to teach an art lesson, whether it be music, well, we have music teachers, whether it be painting, sculpture, anything in the arts, we are happy to partner with you. Please contact Emily Staggs. She's the one that's going up and heading this up. Standards-based grading, as I said, is another piece, and I will go into depth, but that is in our 5-year plan. And finally, thinking about our gifted and talented students. Currently, right now, we do not have a district-wide process for identifying children who are gifted and talented. Gifted and talented falls under the special education umbrella. And generally, if you were to screen a population, you would have around 8 to 10% that might fall into that category. Interestingly enough, often our children that qualify for gifted and talented aren't our children that necessarily make the straight A's. These are children that just think at a very different level, and they may have a very strong propensity in one particular area, whether it be academics, it could be art, it could be leadership, lots of different ways. We want to find a screener that we would give to all of our children to identify who are we missing and how can we better serve these children. So this year we are working on finding that screener. We are investigating and exploring so that we can make sure we capture these children and give them the differentiated instruction to meet their level for their needs. Technology is another strand that I bet you is on every single strategic plan across the nation. Our children are digital natives. They've grown up with technology. We know that almost all jobs moving forward require strong technology skills, and we want our children to be as competitive as any other child in the state of Tennessee with these particular skills. One thing that we are doing is we are rolling out devices. Last year, we gave every 7th and 8th grader in the whole district a device. This year, we added another 7th and a 10th grade. So right now, our 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th graders all have devices. It is in our 5-year plan that our 5 through 12th will all have devices. So this year, we were able to give more. We want to look more at how we can capture and take advantage of online professional development for our teachers. How can we have those in our district that have particular skills create online classes for our own staff to use, that we don't have to go outside and hire a very expensive consultant to come in. We have the expertise we need right here in our district. How can we utilize technology to help us with that? And finally, online classes. When you're in a rural district, we struggle sometimes with finding highly skilled teachers. What we're working on right now is we are missing some Spanish teachers. And so we are going to fill in with the lack of Spanish teachers right now with technology. There are lots and lots of opportunities that we can use technology to help benefit our kids. At Sycamore High School, a week before school started, our physics teacher resigned. A week before school, our physics teacher resigned. And so we put it out there, we looked for candidates, and we were not able to fill it. So we have a wonderful online program called Edgenuity. It offers a well-written physics class, and attached to that physics class, there is an instructor that the children engage with every single day. We would rather have a face-to-face teacher, but this is a great second choice opportunity. So how can we leverage technology to help us meet our needs? Human resources is probably our most important strand, because our the people that work in our district are our most precious and important resource. So we have big goals here. How can we recruit the best teachers, and then how can we retain them? So one of the things that we wanted to do this year, and we were able to do, was to give the teachers a raise. It was a tiny raise, but it was a raise. We're going right back, and we will continue to try to boost their salaries so that we will be competitive. We also created a teacher induction program, and it was led by Dr. Batson. Dr. Batson here. The teacher induction program is a program that when new teachers join, it offers monthly support. They come and they meet with veteran teachers, with those of us in the central office that have long-term skills, and we support those new teachers. If you were to look at the retention rate of teachers across the nation, a large majority of teachers across the nation leave after 5 years. It is a very, very hard job. So we want to provide all the support our teachers need so that they feel equipped and supported, and we retain them so that they have a long and beautiful career here in Cheatham County teaching. And finally, we had safety and facilities as a strand. And in this strand, we're going to really focus this year on everything that has to do with safety. That's probably our top priority of all. We've got to keep everybody safe. So several things have already happened, are in the process of happening. Let me explain them to you. I'm going to start at the bottom. We were so appreciative of our county commissioners. They approved funding that the Sheriff's Department could add 7 more SROs to our school district. Our elementary schools did not have any SROs. They had SROs that were at the other schools that would go back and forth, but they didn't have their own that worked specifically in their building. We have just hired all of our new SROs, and we're very excited. They have to go through training, but I think 5 of them might start after fall break, and then 3 more will start before Christmas. So that is huge. We feel very confident with having an SRO in every single building. That is huge, and we thank the County Commission for helping us make sure that happened. Up to the safe entrances. This school is a perfect example, but we have many, many that are perfect examples. When you walk in the door, you buzz and they let you in. You should not be able to walk on into the school. You should not have access to our kids. Someone shouldn't be able to come in the front door and have access to classrooms and our students. We want to put another level of security, so even though you get in that initial door, you are still contained right there. That is all happening right now. Plans have been made. All we're waiting for is glass, and apparently glass is at a very high premium in the United States right now, and we've had an order in to have more glass that's going to be part of the building. But by Christmas, we hope that we will have it all complete, so that when you walk into any school, you are still contained. And that way it just provides another level of safety and security for your children and our staff members. We started a tip line last year, and it has worked so well. This tip line is available for anybody to email. The email goes directly to me. It goes to Sergeant Chris Gilmore, and also to Shelley Duke, who's in charge of all of our safety. We react the minute we get that email, and we get them sometimes late at night, early in the morning, all day. We get them. We don't respond back, but we act immediately. Depending upon what the tip is, we always reach out to the principal. If there's anything that involves anything legal, Sergeant Gilmore will act immediately on whatever it is that needs to happen in terms of the law enforcement. If it's something that needs counseling, we immediately get in touch with the counselor. We send people to the house. We act. So we feel like a tip line is very, very critical. Kids know things, and kids talk. And so we want to create this culture that they feel comfortable enough to tell us in an anonymous way. We don't know who sends these things to us, and that doesn't even matter. What matters is that we know. And so we're very proud and happy to have the tip line. It's working very well. Governor Haslam released money for school safety. There's some recurring money and there's some one-time money. We got the grants and we are using them to work on our cameras. We have some cameras that were fuzzy, just to upgrade so that you can see the resolution better, add some more cameras, and also in terms of landscaping, there are bushes and trees. We had to do an assessment in terms of how secure our buildings, and that was one of the things that came out was you've got some landscaping that needs to be cut back. It's a security issue, so it will pay for that. We also have had to upgrade our check-in system. So when you come into the building now, you will have to drop in your driver's license or some ID so that we know who's in our building. And then finally, we're going to have a collective process for everybody, whatever school you go in, it's the same process to get in. So these pieces are very, very much in our focus and on our radar, and these are top priorities for us in the facilities plan. Finally, our last strand is parent and community engagement. We just really had the hope to better communicate with you. We want to be completely transparent. We want you to feel that you are in the loop, that you know what's going on, and you have a complete understanding of not only what's happening in schools, but of the education your children are getting. That's important. We want to partner with you. We all have the same goals, and that's to have that 5-star quality education. So these parent information nights are part of our year one, and we will have these every single year, and we want to make sure that you have opportunities to come hear how we're doing. Another thing that's going to happen this year, first year, is we're going to have a State of the District breakfast, and that will be January, and I would love for you all to come. At the State of the District breakfast, we're going to roll out our first annual report. And this will be a document for you to see, and it will have everything from, here are our test scores, here is our budget, here are the awards that we've gotten, here's the number of staff members we have. Everything you need to know about the district will be in this annual report, and we are busy working on that right now. So we will be very proud to roll this out to you at our first State of the District breakfast. So I hope you will come. Let's talk about standards-based grading, because there's been a lot of misinformation about standards-based grading. Standards-based grading has probably been around for 20 years, and I've heard people say, what about this new grading? It's really not new. Here is how standards-based grading came about. In fact, let me just, while I got this, let me read this, because this is the reason of why. Standards-based grading aims to make classroom grades more valid, reliable, and transparent, ultimately providing an accurate reflection of what skills and knowledge students have mastered. And I apologize, the word master is misspelled right there, so be very transparent. So I tell you, I'm going to put that so you don't have to put it on. This is a standard right here. See, I know people think, well, what does that mean? What's a standard? And I'll go into that in a minute, but you can just look at it while I talk. When I was in school 100 years ago, what would happen with grading is certainly whatever grades I made on my test went into my grade. Maybe if I did a project, but also things like, was my behavior good? Oh, that's going to be an extra 100 on the grade. Did I bring in an extra box of Kleenex? Oop, there's 2 more points on my final grade. What about attendance? Was I there? Did I not miss a single thing? That's an extra test grade of 100. A lot of things were mixed in to a final grade, and what started happening was we had students who had perfect 4.0s that couldn't make higher than an 18 on the ACT test. And we realized what was happening was there was a lot of things that were included in that grade besides what they could do in regards to academics. And we realized that that was not fair to students to do, it wasn't fair to parents to do, because what happened is it created this false sense of performance that when push came to shove and you had to just go and show what you could do in regards to standards, it didn't align, it didn't match up. Here's an example of a standard, and it's tiny, you can't read it, and I can't read it either, so I'm not even going to try. But if you're interested in standards, a standard is what your child is going to learn and what they have to do to show that they learned it. And every grade in every subject has all the standards for what teachers are supposed to teach your children. So we are bound to teach, bound, that's not a good word, we are required to teach your children all of the standards, because Tennessee has gone into a lot of thought as to what a well-educated Tennessee education looks like. So I invite you, if you were to go to the Tennessee Department of Education and look on their website, there's the standards, and then you just pick out what grade you want to see in what subject, and you'll see everything that your child should be taught. Not only does it tell us what they should be taught, but it tells what they should be able to do. So if you can see this really well, that first little column says level 1. And this standard is all about fractions. It's a third grade standard. And it's about a child will recognize and understand what a fraction is. And so at level 1, a level 1 is the lowest. That really means if you've got a 1 on this, if you're at a level 1, you can maybe pick out what a fraction looks like. And then it goes on and shows what a level 2 looks like, what a level 3, and a level 4. That's all about the learning. At what level has your child learned this? When you get to level 3 and level 4, not only do they recognize it, not only can they write it, but they can apply it, they can create it, they can do a word problem and show you how this works. They have a much deeper level of a fraction than someone who's operating at a level 1. So I invite you to look at the standards. And so when you talk about standards-based grading, what that means is we're going to grade only how your children can do on standards. I'm going to tell you your grade isn't going to have participation or behavior or the fact that you brought in a box of Kleenex. Your grade is going to reflect where you are in regards to the learning. So that you have, if you go back to the original intent, you have a very clear understanding of how well your child understands these pieces. This is important. So we looked at this and we feel like that a measure of the learning is important. We also, as a district, decided to have several commitments. One of the commitments was that our grading would be attached to standards. And it's not going to be attached to somebody's behavior or that they brought in a ream of paper. So that was one of our commitments. Another one of our commitments, and I don't have my list right now, so I'm going to have to pull it. Another one of our commitments is that children should have an opportunity to retake a test. Now, when you think about real life, if we were to all learn a skill, we're not all going to learn it at the same rate. Some of us are going to learn it very quickly, and some of us are going to need more time. What's constant is we're all going to learn it, but what the variable is would be the time needed for us to learn it. We understand that. So think about, I always tell the story, and my son will love this because it's being recorded. When he went to go take his permit test to drive, he would not read that book. It took him 5 times to get that permit. He's a driver. He could retake it, and he could go back and study, but nevertheless, he's a driver. What happened before when we were all in school, or at least let me say when I was in school, a teacher would teach something, the teacher would put the test out, and whatever you got, we're moving on. And so if I made, let's say, a C or a D on the test, obviously I had gaps, but there was no going back and reteaching me. We just moved on. And and that happened, and all of a sudden, through an educational experience, children started getting these gaps because there was never any reteaching, retesting. So what we feel like is a teacher will teach, a teacher will assess, and then if there are children that didn't get it, then we're going to go back, we're going to teach it again, because standards-based grading is all about the learning. And it is important to us that every child masters what they need to master. And if it takes someone an extra 3 months to do it, we're going to put in the time to make sure that they get it. And then once we feel like they're ready, we're going to give them an opportunity to take the test again. And if they'll do so much better, we're going to replace that poor score they first made. Because a grade, again, should be about how well a child can do on a standard. We wouldn't want to average them, although we still average them. So when you think about us moving to full standards-based grading, think about this. If I took the test, did not do well, and the first thing I made was, maybe I made a 70. And I said, I think I can do better. I want to learn more. Please help me. We'll keep working. I'll go to tutoring. And then I'd go back and I'd make a 90. If we were to average that, then that grade that we get from averaging is not going to be an accurate reflection of my learning, is it? But what would be the accurate reflection of my learning was my 90, because all of a sudden I've got it now. So that we've still got some work to do on standards-based grading, but we're trying to move slow, because it is a paradigm shift in thinking, that it's all about the learning. It's not about other things. We think opportunities for retakes are good for kids. We want to go back and we want to make sure that we reteach. And if we reteach, we've got to reassess. So that's where we are. We also talked about zeros. And in our commitment, we said we could put a 0 in as a placeholder, but when it comes time to do the grades, we're going to change that 0 to a 60. They're both Fs. It doesn't matter if you have average a 0 or a 60. I mean, it does matter. For a child to have a 0 averaged in, that's just defeating. That's demoralizing. You can put a 60 in there, it's still an F. But a child's going to think there's more chance to really get where I need to go if I have that 60 in there than if I have a 0. We also feel like zeros are just grade crushers. Because we still average. And so let's go back to all of a sudden, if I made a 0, I didn't get a single thing right. And then I worked and retook it, and I made a 90. If I average that 90 with a 0, I've got a 45. Is that an accurate reflection of the learning? Mm-mm. So we said we could put zeros in as placeholders, but we were not going to average them in for a final grade. We also said in our commitments that we expect teachers to put grades in every week. And we asked them to shoot for 2 grades a week, and there's lots of ways to get grades. And another thing to think about on a math test, for example, this is an easy example. A math test could have lots of different skills. It could have multiplication, it could have measuring, and it could have telling time. Those are 3 different standards. So if we're standards-based truly, I'm going to put a grade for how the child did on each one. That's 3 different grades. If I just put 1 grade on there and put a B, let's say a child made a B, would you as a parent have an understanding of what the child could do well and what the child couldn't do? Rather, if I put a grade with each standard, you're going to know, ooh, you did great on measurement, ooh, you did great on telling time, we need to work on our multiplication. We want these grades to be crystal clear representations of what a child can do against a standard. And that's our goal with that. We feel like it's best for children, we want to keep reteaching, and we don't want to have educational gaps in any learning for any child. Let's talk about the budget. When I took over, I also took over a budget. I inherited a budget, and it was wrought with problems. And we started looking at it very closely. Just to name a couple of problems. A budget is made up of 2 issues. You have your revenues, the money you're going to take in, and you have your expenditures, the money you're going to spend from the money you take in. So let's just talk about the expenditures first. For example, we run 60 some odd buses every day in Sycamore County. On our line item for fuel for those buses, it was 0. There was no money, even budgeted a penny for the fuel. Another issue was substitute teachers. 2 years before I got here, Sycamore County spent $800,000 on substitutes. Then the year before I got here, that line item for substitutes was at $600,000. The budget that I inherited had $200,000. It just wasn't enough. And this went on and on throughout this budget. It was problematic upon problematic. So we stopped all spending. We did everything we could do, put a stopgap on everything, thinking we could maybe make it, or at least get somewhat close. But then we got hit with another whammy. When our revenues started coming in, at the end of the year, our revenues were short, or to put it a different way, they were overestimated in this budget by $1.5 million. So to put this in very simple terms, I want you to think about You have $100 to spend. You've been told you're going to get $100 to spend. And you have in your mind what you're going to spend your $100 on. But then you start thinking, I don't know, I think maybe I shouldn't spend that much. I'm only going to spend 80, and you're feeling pretty good about yourself. You're thinking, oh, I'm saving money, there will be a surplus. And then when it comes time for payday and you're expecting that check to be $100, it's 70. Now, you have underspent your budget, but you've overspent your revenues. That is exactly what happened to us this last year. So all of a sudden, for this budget that we're in right now, we had to build a budget more in the $70s than in the $100 range. And it required for very strict cuts. We had a couple of things that gave us some relief. The county commission gave us 2 pennies, and a penny is worth approximately $87,000. So we got 2 pennies added to our budget. That helped. We also, the county commission, we paid for 3 SROs, and the county commission said, we'll pay for those. That was another $175,000 added to our budget. That helped too. Then we also had a loan for lighting that had been in existence since 2011, thank you. It cost us out of our operating budget around $434,000 out of our operating budget. And the county commission said, we'll take over, let's put that loan into the ed debt account. Ed debt is a savings account that we have with the county, and we can only touch that money to do things that have to do with capital construction or transportation. That's it. That money cannot be used for anything else but that. But they very graciously said, let's put that loan there. The ed debt will pay for that. So that infused about $800,000 back into our budget. But remember, we were short $1.5 million. And then let's add to that, there was no money for fuel. There was not enough money for subs. So while we were thrilled to have the $800,000 back in, it still wasn't nearly enough. So we had to build the budget then on what we had. And it required us to make some really painful cuts across the board. And that is what we are working on and working with right now. I will tell you that we're going back to with the county commission, and we're going to meet with them in October to start planning the budget for next year so that we are in better shape. And I have every expectation that we will have a wonderful working relationship, and that we will, and we do, and that we will be able to come to some solutions here. Got some great minds that will be working on this. So it's a painful year this year, but I expect it to be much better next year. And I do want to take a minute, even though we are being videoed. I have 2 of my wonderful board members here that I want to thank for being here. I have the chairman of the board is Mr. John Llewellyn, and then we have Ms. Jennifer Hanlon. Wonderful board members. I thank you so very much for everything you do, and all the support that you have given us. It's been tremendous. Another issue with our budget that you may have heard about, our daycare fees. I'll tell you the good and the bad. Daycare has their own separate funding. It's completely different than the regular general budget. When Ms. Dax took over daycare, she's been in the position for 6 years. There was a very healthy fund balance, and they were in pretty good shape. Since she's been there, the prices have not gone up, but everything else has gone up. Everything we do goes up, doesn't it? Insurance goes up, and personnel goes up, and supplies goes up. Right now, for the past several years, she's been losing money on that endeavor. And at some point, we're going to have to either raise prices or it's going to have to close. She brought up to the board this week, asking could she raise prices. What we have decided to do at this point, and the whole daycare was originally done for our staff. We don't want to raise prices. We're not going to. We've taken it off of the agenda for Monday night. We're going to do everything we can do to just hang on and see if we can't get ourselves in better financial shape. So I do want to put that out publicly. I am worried something is going to have to change down the road, because you cannot have a strategy to continue to go to the savings account to make ends meet. And to put that in perspective, at one daycare class, every month loses between $3,000 and $5,000. That's one class, and we have multiple classes. we have enough in fund balance to make it this year and possibly next year, but that's not sustainable. So we are going to table it. We are going to put our heads together. We are going to think about it more. We will not vote on nor have that in effect at all this week. So I just want to put that to rest. Another issue that you might have seen has been about school lunches. And a couple of weeks ago, we were in a panic regarding our school lunches. Last year, at the end of the year, we looked at the number of charges that we had across the district. And the charges that go unpaid, the district paid for. Last year, at the end of the year in May, the charges in the district were $23,000 that were not paid. We can't sustain this in our budget at all, so we said we were going to have to make some changes, and we were going to have to stay on top of this, and we were going to have to make sure that we don't end up with that this year. We just didn't have the money. So after 4 weeks of school, we said, let's run the numbers, because we had such high hopes that we were doing really, really well. And after 4 weeks, we looked at it, and our charges were $10,000. We almost had a heart attack, and so we had to just put the brakes on, and we had to say, we can't do this. And so we looked at our policy, said if you have charged $10, you can't charge any more. So we followed the policy, and we said, if you have $10, you can't continue to charge. We're going to make sure you eat, because we want every child to eat every single day, but we're going to fix an alternative lunch for you. That started helping, and people started, I truly think that many people just didn't know that their children were charged. And we were able to start recapturing money, and we had several amazing donors and parents that sent checks. And then A.O. Smith came charging in like a knight with shining armor, and they wrote us a check for $10,000 to make sure that we were good to go in our lunch account this year. So again, we felt like we were able to recover thanks to the generosity. We have to really come up with a better plan to make sure, and we feel like we've got it, that parents monitor their children's lunch accounts, and that they know when their children's accounts are getting low. But with our budget, we cannot sustain and pay for charges that don't get paid. So we're pretty good to go there. Another thing I've seen on Facebook that I want to just talk about, the nutrition department is funded through federal funds. And those federal funds, what happens is we buy the food, and then we fix it, and children buy their lunches, and then we get reimbursed from the federal government for that. It's really important that we break even here. And if we buy a whole lot of food, and then the children don't eat it, then we're losing money. So you want your nutrition departments to be sustaining. One of the things that we have put into place that we heard about from Dixon County were these new pizzas called Smart Mouth pizzas. Now, anything we serve in a cafeteria has to have all the USDA nutritional guidelines. So we can't just serve junk food anymore. I think maybe that happened years ago. But no, everything we serve has to be nutritionally sound. These pizzas follow, they meet all of the USDA guidelines, but they're really good. And so I would invite you, children all of a sudden now are very excited to eat lunch at the cafeteria, and we're very excited that they're excited, because that will help our lunch program just meet its participation rate. So I guess I want to go on record and say, those pizzas meet all the USDA guidelines. They're very healthy, but also it's just helping us be able to serve food that's nutritionally sound that children want to eat. And so we're excited to have a new product. Moving forward, I've heard people say, well, so what can we do? What can we do? We thought we would roll out a campaign, the shop local, shop Cheatham. When you compare our district, our county, to other surrounding counties, they have a lot of businesses that provide a tax base. And I will say I've been as guilty as anybody. But when we buy here, if it's as simple as buying your gasoline here, that's money that goes back to Cheatham County that helps our school district, it helps the sheriff's department, the fire, everybody. And so we thought, well, let's just at least raise awareness and say, could you make a conscious choice? Just think about it. When you can, if there are things you could purchase here, would you just give it a consideration? So we really want to ask people, if you can, please shop local, shop Cheatham, because it really helps us. because our funding, our local funding here is based on our local taxes. And so that makes a huge difference to us. That is all the information I have tonight. I'm happy to answer questions for you. I hope I have given you a complete and thorough understanding of everything we have going on, all the wonderful things we have going on, as well as our challenges. Again, it is our intention and our desire that you have a very strong understanding of what we're doing in the district. And I invite anybody that would love to come meet with me one-on-one, you're more than welcome to come. But I would be happy to take questions from the audience if there's something that I have not covered that you would like more information about. Does anybody have any questions? Okay.
My question involves middle school exclusively. And I would like to know what active steps you're taking to prevent sexual harassment in middle school.
Are you talking student to student in middle school?
That's how I'm thinking about it, but anybody care to answer the question?
Sure. I've got a middle school principal. I don't mean to put you on the spot. I know we talk about bullying all the time. We have a big grant that helps pay for bullying classes, and certainly sexual harassment falls under a bullying umbrella. And so we do work with students on that. We also have our guidance counselors that do work with kids and teach classes in the classes. Ms. Miller, is there anything that you can think of that I haven't talked about?
When it's reported, the guidance counselors and our discipline in the office tries to address any issue to deal with it as quickly as possible.
And what would you say in terms of education, being proactive messages so that children really understand in regards to sexual harassment? How do we help them know about that?
Our guidance counselors do lessons, and some of the topics might include.
Yeah.
Some of them include that.
They go into classes regularly. That's part of their job, and they teach all kinds of classes in terms of all the strands of bullying, whether it's sexual harassment, whether it's physical bullying, whether it's cyberbullying, whether it's social bullying. They teach communication skills and conflict resolution skills, and so that's all part of a counselor's standards of what they're supposed to teach. And so that happens really not just at middle school, but it happens at elementary school as well and high school. So we definitely, that's very important to us. Again, going back to our mission, when we talk about we want to create respectful and caring students, that falls under that. That's very important to us. Do you feel like your question's answered?
That's all it's going to be.
Okay.
I'll ask another quick question related, or perhaps and first of all, let me say I appreciate your coming out to talk to the teachers. My daughter learned an important lesson about credit management from the school lunch program. She charged $30 without us knowing anything.
Yes.
And she's learned a lesson about credit.
Well, I think that happens a lot. I think that children, they were doing a lot of charging. And, I think that once we just made parents aware of it, we got it under control very seriously, very quickly. So thank you for that. Thank you so much for that. You had a question.
What are you guys doing to address the growth of the northern cluster?
Oh, great question. That is a great question. We had, as part of our work on the strategic plan, the very first thing we did is we hired a gentleman last year. His name was Dr. Salmon, and he is out of the state of Georgia. He works with school districts all over the Southeast, and he has 30 years experience of coming into a school district or a community and doing growth projectiles. So he spent months studying all of Cheatham County, and we'd be glad, we ought to post his data so y'all can see. But he confirmed what we already knew, was that the big growth explosion was up here in the north. So I will tell you this. I have made an offer on some property. We're going to have to build a new school up here. We are, Mr. Miller would tell you, at Pleasant View Elementary, it is packed in there. And so we're going to build a new high school is what's going to happen, and we're going to what's the word?
Distribute.
Reconfigure. Be great on that now. Reconfigure our grade levels. But I have put an offer for some land, and as soon as I get the answer, we'll start moving forward. So yes, there are big plans, and that is very much on our radar, and there's very much a sense of urgency. We already have a group that we are working with. They're project managers for construction. We already have talked to several architects. And so yes, very much we have a lot in the works. We've just got to secure a place. And so we have one piece that we're very interested in, and we're just waiting on a reply. And then we'll move forward. But I will tell you this, when we get that land and when we start this process, it will be very much a process that we would want y'all to be very involved. We will have lots of meetings, get lots of input. For example, one thing we would think about is, let's think about our CTE classes at the high school. We have an opportunity to build a new school. What classes would we want to offer up here? If we want to offer some kind of automotive, then that needs to be in our architectural design. So we would want all of you to really be involved in what do you want to see in the high school here so that we can make sure it's in the building that we build. That's a great question. Thank you for that. What other questions would you have? Yes, ma'am.
I guess mine's kind of a two-part question. Going on with the new school, we're already short bus drivers, short, teachers. Like, where's the money coming from to build the new school? And then what is going to be done to, I don't know, just draw in new drivers and, people to man that school?
It's a great question. So if you remember, I talked about ed debt, and I said it is like a savings account that can only be used for capital construction. So this county has had the vision to save for it, and right now in that account, there's $30 million to go towards building a new school. We can't use any of that money to help our operating expenses. That money can only be used for building new schools or for fixing leaky roofs or things like that. You asked a very valid question though in terms of bus drivers. We're happy to say we're down to, we only need 4 right now, but you're exactly right. That is an ongoing problem that we are constantly looking to bring in more people. Also within the new school, our operating budget is going to have to expand because even though I think we could get this school built and we could move teachers around. I don't think we'd have to hire new teachers, but we would have to hire a new principal and an office staff and cafeteria staff because there would be 4 schools up here, not counting East Cheatham, instead of 3. So that is something that we're very aware of and know that we have to make sure that we have the budget to support the extra school. What we're thinking is though, with all the growth, we hope the children that move into these houses will go to school here, and that in turn will generate more revenue. So that's a great question. What other questions would you have? Yes, ma'am.
To follow up on their questions, what is the projected time frame for this new school to be built?
Well, that's a $1 million question. It takes about 2 years to build a school. So if we back that out, and so again, we're waiting to have this offer accepted. And so we also you can drive up here and you can see these homes, you can see, but the people aren't living in them yet. We kind of need these homes to more or less be close to being finished and have this all come together at once. I'm going to say at least 3 years. It'll take at least 3 years for this to happen, and that's kind of our projected timeline right now. Don't hold me into that in stone, but that's in our thinking what it would be. 3 years out. That's a great question, thank you. What other questions would you have?
What area would the new school be in? Would it still all be kind of close?
We would hope so.
Kind of out?
We hope it would all be very close. What we would love to do would be able to use the existing facilities in terms of football fields and things like that. So that's our hope, that we keep it close. Any other questions? I just want to thank you for coming. I want to thank my amazing staff. I want to take a moment and introduce some of them. I have Dr. Tara Watson, and she is in charge of all of our finances. She is our Chief Financial Officer. I have Mary Miller, and Mary is in charge of many things. She does all of our RTI and much of our literacy for the district. Andy is here, thank you, is an academic specialist. Yes, and Jen's academic specialist. I have Will, who's here. He's Director of Technology for the entire district. I have Dr. McWhorter, and certainly Ms. Carter, who are the wonderful administrators here in Sycamore High School. I have Dr. Beth Batson, who is our Director of HR, and I have Dr. Joseph Jones, who's in charge of math for the district. If I missed anybody, and of course my amazing board members. I'm sorry, I have Robin Miller, and she's the Sycamore Middle School principal, and I have Mr. Keith Miller, and he's the Pleasant View principal. So thank you all for coming out. I look forward to answering any further questions. Oh, there's one more. Yes.
I just got a question. So, could you touch more on the attendance policy of the Tier 1 and the Tier 2
Sure.
attendance policies?
Absolutely. I will touch base on in a limited, but I'll be happy to talk about this soon. The state made a law that required us to begin, and we have to have a 3-tiered attendance process. That is not our design, that is the state's design. So we knew this was going to take effect this school year. And then they tell us what more or less has to happen in these tiers. At this many days, this has to happen. So our hands are really tied in terms of that. We put together a committee last year, and the committee was made up mostly of parents. It had our district attorney, Mr. Ray Crouch, was on there. It had a representative from the juvenile court system with Judge Maxey's. It had Dr. Melinda Brules, who's the principal at Ashland City Elementary. Am I missing anybody else that was on there? They worked within this policy to create for our district. Now, I will tell you that when they first created it, and again, I wanted so much parent input because I know that it affects parents obviously the most. They created something that was way more strict than the state required. We have to send every policy to the state for approval. So we sent it to the state for approval, and they said, no, this is too strict. You need to dial it back down, and here's what you can have in place. So what we adopted as a district, when it came back through for the board to vote on, it was approved by the state. They said, this follows the state guidelines. So you can look up on the Tennessee Department of Education website and you can see the requirements, and our policy pretty much mimics it. And it was approved by the state in terms of, yes, this meets the requirements, but it doesn't go over the requirements. But it is tough. It is very strict. And let me piggyback on that and tell you, schools get graded. Schools get graded, and we know that if they get graded a 5, that's considered an exemplary school, and then 4 through 2, and then a 1 is a school that is in need of a lot of work. This year, they included in our accountability grading chronic absenteeism. So the state is very much trying to crack down on attendance, and that is part of how we're graded. So if we have students that have more than 10 days, we get docked for it. And right now, our school district is running around in the 20% of chronic absences. We get penalized greatly by the state for our attendance rate. So, and not just Union County, it happens everywhere, but I believe that's why the state took such a very strong stance, is, they want people in school, and so much so that they added it to the way that they grade us. So I'd be happy to answer, or certainly have Dr. Bruhl sit down with you and further. She's in charge of it for the whole district, and she can answer very detailed questions for you. But I know it's tough. I get it. It is very, very tough. But it's what the state is requiring us to do. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
When you were talking about the new school, you said we would have a new high school and a total of 4 schools. So would we have 2 high schools, or
No.
are you thinking that we would have an additional elementary school?
Yes, yes. And so again, this is not set in stone. This is just my thinking right now. But I'm thinking that Pleasant View Elementary would be maybe, I'm just making this up, this is just what I'm thinking, maybe pre-K through 2nd grade, and then maybe 3rd through 5th might move into our current middle school, and then our middle school would move into this building, and then our high school would move into the new high school. Does that make sense? And that's just, that's one idea. That's not set in stone. Any other questions? Thank you so very much for coming. I will stand right down here if anybody would like to come ask me any further questions. I so appreciate you coming. You are so valuable to us. We want to make sure that you're communicated with and that you fill in the loop, and I invite you to pick up the phone and call me anytime you have questions. My door and phone, we're always available. Thank you so very much.